Hi, my name is Brianna Navarro, and today I'm going to be talking about Chapter 2, What is Play, from Stuart Brown's book, Play, How It Shapes the Brain. So, the first thing that we have to ask ourselves is, what is play? Brown mentions that he does not like to define play because it is so varied. What he means by that is that one person's idea of play and fun is not always going to be the same for other people. I agree that it is hard to define play because it can mean different things to different people. What I may enjoy doing may not be what someone else would like to do. He describes play as a primal activity that is preconscious and preverbal, meaning that it exists before our consciousness or our ability to speak. Play proceeds without a complex intellectual framework. Brown mentions that play is best appreciated by experiencing it. He says that when we try to analyze play, we are taking the joy out of it as well. Play has an emotion-laden context that is essential for understanding. Brown determined some properties of play when he was asked to explain the definition to engineers. He says that these properties make play the essence of freedom. Play is its own reward, its own reason for being. The first property is that play is apparently purposeless. It is done for its own sake. There is no survival value or practical value. That's why some people may argue that it may be a waste of time. Play is voluntary. There is no obligation or requirement to participate in play. It is also an inherent attraction to it because when we play, we have fun. It can make us feel good and be exciting. Play can provide a freedom from time. When we are engaged in play, we sometimes lose a sense of the passage of time. Brown mentions that we experience a diminished consciousness of self while playing. We don't worry about the opinions of others. In imaginative play, we can even become someone that we are not. We become in the zone and fully engaged. The act of experiencing this is also called flow. Play also has improvisational potential. We are open to the chance of experiencing something new. We stumble upon new behaviors, thoughts, strategies, movements, or ways of being. Lastly, there is a continuation desire within play. We desire to keep playing, and the pleasure of the experience is what drives the desire. One thing that I had never heard before and found interesting was that Brown discusses Scott Erbal's framework for play. Erbal says that most people go through a 6-step process as they play. The first step is anticipation. Students may wonder what will happen if they do something new. There may be some anxiety or just curiosity. The next step is surprise. This is where students may discover a new sensation or idea, a discovery, or a shifting perspective. Pleasure is simply that the play is resulting in a good feeling, that students are having fun from participating in play. Understanding is the acquisition of new knowledge, how ideas are coming together and are making sense to the child. Strength in play means that there is constructive experience and understanding taking place. Perhaps students are knowing more about how the world works. Lastly, we have poise. Students may feel content and have a sense of balance in their lives. When we reach poise, we repeat the cycle and look for a new source of anticipation. Play has become important to our development, and that the impulse to play has become a biological drive. Much like our desires to eat and sleep, the impulse to play is internally integrated. All drives are not the same. Our primary need is survival. However, studies show that if mammals are fed, safe, and rested, they will play spontaneously. For children, the reward for play is strong, and that they need it to help generate a rapidly developing brain. For adults, the brain is not developing as rapidly, and the play drive may not be as strong. However, when play is denied over a long period of time, our mood darkens. We start becoming incapable of feeling sustained pleasure. Brown mentions that there is laboratory evidence that in animals a play deficit is like a sleep deficit. When we have been deprived of sleep, we often need more sleep the next time to make up for that deprivation. The same can be said for play. Although there is no statistical evidence that this applies to humans, there is anecdotal evidence that the connection is present. Brown claims that humans also feel much more intense desire to play when they have gone a long time without it. When we are fully engaged in play, there are positive benefits. Based on anecdotal evidence, Brown claims that with enough play, the brain works better. We feel more optimistic and creative. We are attracted to situations that test skills we do not need now, but may need in the future. One way that play impacts animals is that it has been scientifically proven to be useful to help animals live their lives. Bob and Joanna Fagan compiled the longest and most intricate study of animal play in the wild. For more than 15 years, they were analyzing the behaviors of Alaskan grizzlies. They found that bears who played the most were the ones that survived the best. Play also allows a pretend rehearsal for the challenges of life. This rehearsal is when life and death are not at stake. One theory is that play is practice for skills that may be needed in the future. When animals play fight, they are practicing hunting and fighting for the future. Bob mentions that in a world full of unique challenges, play prepares bears for an evolving planet. Lastly, play allows animals to learn about their environment and the rules of engagement with a friend or foe. Play allows animals to engage in a penalty-free rehearsal of normal interaction while in social groups. For example, it is common for a kitty, puppy, or cub to playfully bite at its mother. This pouncing practice may benefit them in a fight or hunt in the future. Play and the brain was the largest part of the chapter, as it's important to understand the effects play has on the brain. Neuroscientists Sergio Pellis and Andrew Iwanuk and biologist John Nelson reported that there is a strong positive link between brain size and playfulness of mammals in general. In their study, they measured brain size and play behavior in 15 species of mammals that range from dogs to dolphins. They found that the species with larger brains played a lot, and the species with smaller brains played less. Jock Pankseep, a senior play researcher, has shown that active play selectively stimulates brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which stimulates nerve growth of the amygdala, where emotions get processed, and the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, where executive decisions are processed. John Byers, an animal play scholar, discovered that the amount of play is correlated to the development of the brain's frontal cortex. This brain region is responsible for cognition, which is discriminating relevant to irrelevant information, monitoring and organizing our own thoughts and feelings, and planning for the future. In addition, the period of maximum play in each species is tied to the rate and size of growth of the cerebellum. The cerebellum is responsible for key cognitive functions such as attention, language processing, sensing musical rhythm, and more. Play activity also helps sculpt the brain. For humans, creating social simulations is play's most valuable benefit. We can imagine and experience situations we have never encountered before and learn from them. We can learn lessons and skills without being directly at risk. Simulations can be created through watching and engaging in sports, physical activities, books, storytelling, art, and more. To continue with play in the brain, play also plays a role in crafting the developing brain. Gerald Elderman describes how our perceptual experiences are coded within the brain in scattered maps. The brain achieves a rich and flexible series of maps that permit the recognition of innumerable sorts of objects, sounds, colors, and so on. Play can capture a pretend narrative and combine it with the reality of one's experience in a playful setting, at least in childhood. This is how we develop our major personal understandings of how the world works. We imagine possibilities, stimulating what might be, and then testing this against what actually is. In the 1960s, Marion Diamond, a neuroscientist, conducted experiments that proved that rats raised in an enriched environment became smarter, but their brains were also larger and more complex. What made the environment enriched was that the rats had a variety of toys and socialized with other rats. Play became the key for the rat's brain development. It became crucial to provide babies and young children with the chance to play and socialize through the use of toys, play, and parental interaction to help them reach their full potential.